Hello and Jai Hind. Friends, in this video we are going to discuss about some extra questions related to A Triumph of Surgery, which is written by James Herriot. We already discussed the lesson. Now, I'm going to discuss here some extra questions and how to answer those questions. Okay, so this will help you to understand how to answer some questions, and it will also help you to understand the lesson a bit better. Okay, so let's see. The first type of questions, as you know, it is answer in 30 to 40 words, and as we have already discussed in one of the videos that we have already seen, that how we can answer these questions, what things we need to keep in mind, and if you feel anything problem in that, you can go back to the video, watch it again, and it will also help you to understand how to keep your answer within the word limit. Okay, so in that, the first question we are going to learn is, what kind of a person do you think the narrator, a veterinary surgeon, is? Would you say he is a tactful as well as full of common sense? Now, first of all, you see that the question is divided into different parts. What kind of person do you think? Means this is a personal responsive question based on your opinion. Okay, so you may like him, you may not like him. Just you need to give the correct proper answer in proper language. If you say yes, you have to support the answer. If you say no, then you have to support the answer in the proper way. And second part of the question deals with, would you say he is a tactful as well as full of common sense? So is he tactful? Tactful matlab to deal somebody cleverly, it is called as tactful. So was he tactful? So in the answer of this question, you can definitely say yes, he was a really good person, kind person. He had a logical thinking. He was a clever person. He was tactful. He was tactful because he dealt with Mrs. Pumphrey tactfully. He understood the real problem that Tricky was suffering from, and he decided to separate Tricky from Mrs. Pumphrey. And that was the only way that could save him, because he knew that the real problem didn't lie in Tricky. The problem lied in the behavior of Mrs. Pumphrey, and that's why he decided to separate the dog from her mistress. So he was very tactful and he had common sense because he behaved in a very clever way, and he used common sense, and he treated the dog well. So this is how you can answer this question, but you need to keep this answer in 30 to 40 words. Okay, now you have to put only important things there. The next question is, how does Dr. Herriot treat Tricky? Now, again, I already told you, you need to keep in mind the tense of the question. How does? Does is used here. And when does is used, it means you have to answer the question in present tense. So, Dr. Herriot treats Tricky. ऐसे आपको आपके आंसर की शुरुआत करनी पड़ेगी, और ये ध्यान में रखना पड़ेगा कि every sentence that comes in your answer, it has to be in present tense. Okay, now you can answer in this way. Dr. Herriot treats Tricky in a very clever and tactful way. He exactly knew where the problem lies. And that's why he takes Tricky with him to the hospital under the pretext of undergoing an operation. He kept the dog away from food and nutritious food, different kind of food that was supposed to give to him, to be given to him, to the dog. He also didn't give all the wine, all the brandy, eggs to the dog, and treated the dog by keeping it away from food. This is how you need to answer in this question. Okay. The next question is, what did Mrs. Pumphrey do to bring Tricky back to normal health? Was she successful? Now look at the question. What did Mrs. Pumphrey did? The question is in past tense. So what did Mrs. Pumphrey do to bring Tricky to normal health? Pumphrey ने क्या किया बताना है. Was she successful? This is the question. So this question has to be answered in two parts, and maximum you can use 40 to 50 words for this. In the answer, you can write, to bring Tricky to normal health, she started giving him a beer and cod liver oil. She also gave him a bowl of Horlicks at night to make him sleep. But she was not successful. This is the answer of the second part. She was not successful because all these things put an adverse effect on the little dog. So adverse effect हुआ, ये आपको बताना पड़ेगा. Next question is, describe the parting scene between Tricky and Mrs. Pumphrey's household. Parting scene means separating scene. Means when Tricky was taken away by the doctor, what was the situation there? What was the scene there? You know well that when the Tricky was taken to the hospital by the doctor at that time, the situation was very difficult. You know that Mrs. Pumphrey she was really wailing at the time, and the whole staff was used to bring this in that out, and the scene when Tricky was taken to the car at that time, everything was brought, the dog's bed, his extra balls, special things, all these things were brought there, and when he drove from there, everybody was in tears. So this was a very emotional scene, which you need to write here. Then next question is, wasn't Mrs. Pumphrey an overindulgent but silly and impractical mistress? So here are two words which are very important. आपको अगर मिसेस पंफ्री का कैरेक्टर स्केच लिखना है तो भी ये वर्ड्स काम में आएंगे. ओवर इंडल्जेंट एंड इम्प्रैक्टिकल, सिली एंड इम्प्रैक्टिकल, यू कैन यूज दीज वर्ड्स. शी वॉज ओवर इंडल्जेंट. द मीनिंग ऑफ ओवर इंडल्जेंट मतलब किसी चीज़ में ज़रूरत से ज़्यादा इन्वॉल्व होना, किसी को ज़्यादा पैम्परिंग करना, ऐसे इसका मतलब यहाँ पे लेना है. एंड इम्प्रैक्टिकल मिस्ट्रेस, क्या वो इम्प्रैक्टिकल मिस्ट्रेस थी, ये आपको इसमें बताना है. You can answer like this. Yes, Mrs. Pumphrey was fabulously rich. She could afford to be over-indulgent towards her favorite pet dog, Tricky. The dog was pampered like a spoiled child. She was silly enough to provide cushions, toys, day bed, night bed, unnecessary items like malt, cod liver oil, Horlicks, wine, brandy, and whatnot. And such things are even not available for human beings. So her impractical nature of behavior led to overfeeding of Tricky. He grew hugely fat, listless, and dull. So this shows she was impractical. Next question is, do you think Tricky was happy to go home back? What do you think will happen now? Now this is after treatment. Treatment के बाद क्या होगा ये यहाँ पे बताना है. You can answer this question as a yes. Tricky was happy to go back home because we know that he really loved his mistress, and also he loved the life he lived there. Actually, he didn't have any kind of friend at home, but he also seemed very excited when he saw his mistress, and he jumped with joy. And second part के answer में, what do you think will happen now? You can write here that Mrs. Pumphrey would be very careful next time, and she would not feed him more than what is necessary, and also would give him a lot of exercise. Next question is, why is the vet tempted to keep Tricky as a permanent guest? In the answer of this question, you can write that out of the overindulgence with Tricky, Mrs. Pumphrey provided all kind of lavish things to Tricky and the hospital, and the hospital staff along with the doctor rejoiced it. They enjoyed the eggs came for Tricky, they enjoyed wine, brandy, and all these things. So if he kept Tricky for longer time, he would have enjoyed this pleasure for longer time, and if he kept it for lifetime, he would have enjoyed it for lifetime. So you have to answer in this way, because he wanted to enjoy those things, but actually didn't do that. Next is, why does Mrs. Pumphrey think the dog's recovery is a triumph of surgery? Again, you notice that the question is in present tense, so you have to answer it in present tense. So Mrs. Pumphrey thinks that the dog was suffering from some sort of great illness. He was seriously ill, and she also didn't have any kind of hope of his recovery. So, though she tried her best to recover the dog, she was not able to cure it. So, when she saw the dog at that time, she found that it was very supple and was very energetic. At that time, she considered that it was a triumph of surgery, and she considered it is a great achievement for the doctor. Do you think there are also parents like Mrs. Pumphrey? Yes, you have to answer this question because there are so many parents who are doting parents who love their children beyond limits. And we need to keep in mind this thing that everything beyond limit is poison. Your love for your children is also a poison when it crosses a limit. So there are so many parents who feed their children lavishly. Also, they do a lot of pampering to the level of spoiling them. So definitely the answer to this question is yes. So these were some questions of answer in 30 to 40 words. Now we're going to discuss some questions in 100 to 120 words. These questions will help you to understand the lesson better. Excess of everything is bad. Comment in the wake of Mrs. Pumphrey's love for turkey. Yes, you can answer this question. Excess of everything is bad. It is applicable to everything. And as I have just told you one saying, that is everything beyond limit is poison. Whether it is love, it is food, or even it is medicine. Whatever comes extra goes west, and that is also applicable here. Now, you have to support your answer with the information from the text. What happens most of the cases in the answer of long questions or such questions, so many students they think of writing the story. So you have to use the events of the story just as a supporting matter to your answer. You have to make a statement, and in support of that you have to write your answer, and that information can be taken from the lesson. I'll just give one example. The excess of everything is bad. Comment in the wake of Mrs. Pumphrey's love for turkey. So you can tell like this: everything beyond limit turns into poison that spoils us. Mrs. Pumphrey loved her dog more than necessary. She treated the dog lavishly, but this extra love spoiled the dog and brought him very close to death. And in treatment, she also provided the dog with number of things like cod liver oil and other stuffs like Horlicks and all these things. But these only ended in spoiling or worsening the situation of Tricky. So, whether they are dogs or children, everything that is beyond limit, that spoils them. So, this knowledge she gets from the Dr. Harriot, that everything must be given. Even she didn't give exercise to the dog, and she kept on feeding the dog on and on and on, and that spoiled it. So in this way you can add some events from the lesson so that it will help you. Next question is, how did Mrs. Pumphrey keep her dog? How did she add to his problems? Simple, the answers which are given there in the information given here, that in what way she kept the dog. And the question is in past tense, so to answer in past tense. She provided all the kind of luxuries to the dog. She gave cushions, extra beds, special clothes, special bowls for everything, and all the servants were at the service of the dog, and she had all the special arrangements for the dog. She made such arrangements even human beings most of the time don't get such things. So she gave all these things, and all these things added to the problems because Tricky's habits, they changed. Tricky's hunger increased, he went on eating, and he went on putting on weight, and then that's why he became just a bag or a mass of flesh. So this is how it's Paulson. Give the character sketch of Mrs. Humphrey. Mrs. Pumphrey was a very wealthy lady. You can also use the words like she was overindulgent, she was impractical, she was very loving to her dog, Tricky. She pampered and overfed the dog. She gave him much nutritious food, so that made Tricky very greedy. And you can also tell that she was a compassionate lady as well, and she also tried to provide all kind of nourishment to Tricky when he was convalescing. She tried her best to help Tricky, and she was to some extent trustworthy, as the doctor himself handed over the dog, feeling that she would keep the dog better. Then onwards, these are the points that you can add. You can also add some more points about her characters. You can some more adjectives. And as she was very grateful to Mr. Harriot, and though she was rich, she didn't seem to be a very proud lady of her richness. So you can also add this thing, positive and negative aspects of her personality. The next and last question is, give the character sketch of Tricky. We know that Tricky is the main character of the whole story, the center of attraction, because everything that goes in the lesson, it goes for Tricky. Tricky was a small dog. He was pampered and overfed by his mistress. He was given much nutritious food. It made him greedy, and he didn't refuse food at all. He liked eating cream cakes and chocolates. So this made him hungry and hugely fat. Looked like a bloated sausage. Keep this phrase in your mind, that is bloated sausage. He had bloodshot and rheumy eyes. He became dull, flabby, lazy, and listless. He was seriously sick. He had bouts of vomiting. Uh, when he was taken to Harriot's surgery, at that time he was really serious. He didn't do any kind of exercise. Then you can also tell that after some time the dog got mixed with the other dogs. It was a playful dog. Then the dog loved his mistress a lot. These are the things you can add here. Okay, so there are so many questions you can also follow. So many long answer questions can also be asked based on that, uh, and you can follow them. And whatever answers I have discussed, you can also make points on them, and you can also read some more questions based on them. Okay, try them, read them, and you can also send a copy of them to me so that I can correct them. Okay, bye for now. Jai Hind.